Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to do another strip and flip video. This time it's going to be on the Husqvarna 435 chainsaw. Now I know last time when I did this, we just went through tearing down the saw and identifying which parts interchange with other models. And this time we're going to do the same, but I'm going to try and move through it a little faster and maybe get to some of the next steps involved in the actual flipping process, where the parts will be cleaned, photographed, parts numbers ID'd, the whole listing deal on eBay, all of that. Eventually we'll go through the whole process, although this video may not contain all those steps. The first thing I want to point out is that if you're stripping and flipping saws, depending on where you're sourcing them from, a lot of times they're going to look like this one. I mean, this is disgusting, right? It actually, someone was throwing it out and it was recovered. And it looks like there's a lot of pieces missing. Maybe they've been through this already. But there's also a lot of good parts here. And that's what we're going to harvest. We're going to harvest those good parts, clean them up, and get them listed on eBay. Now, one of the tricks to being successful listing on eBay is accurately describing the parts and part numbers. This particular model, the 435, some of you may know that there's 4 different versions of this saw. There's the 435, the 435E, the 435E2, and the 435-2. So it's a little confusing. A lot of the parts interchange, some of them don't. And the list of saws that are similar to this saw, and some of the parts might interchange, would include the 135 series, the 140 series, the 440 series, the, let me check my cheat sheet here, the John Surratt 2240s, and the Red Max Zenoa GZ381. So it's quite a long list of models that used a lot of similar parts on this. So, I mean, let's get right into it, okay? First thing we're going to do is get this top cover off. This top cover is cylinder cover. It was used on all of the Husky models that I listed. The 135, the 140, the 435, 440. Hang on a minute. Yeah, the whole mess of them. I mean, it was used on all of them, right? This one's particularly disgusting, but I don't see any cracks in it anywhere. That cha-ching you just heard was an eBay sale. If you're a seller, you kind of live for them cha-chings. All right, look at this. No spark plug. Someone's been in here. Let's see what it looks like inside there. It is, it's not roached, but it's got a couple vertical lines in it, and it's not something I would try and want to resell. So that's going to speed up the process here, because I won't have to go that deep. Let's see if this thing's got spark. Wow. Yes, it has spark. No, it's not worth a crap. It wasn't a nice, long 6mm clean blue spark. It was more of a wannabe attempt at a spark. And it's not something I'm interested in reselling. Now, you're thinking, boy, there's a lot of stuff you're not going to resell. It's going to be a waste, right? Well, not really. I paid little or nothing for the saw, and anything I get out of it is bonus. And I don't want to tarnish my reputation as a seller by selling junk. So except for needing to be cleaned up, This is a good starter. I got no problems with that, except for the dirt. Our air conductor. Well, let me back up a minute, because you're asking yourself, well, what model does that starter fit on? Well, let me tell you. The starter, there's two different starters, really. There's this style, and then there's the kind that has the spring assist in it. So there'd be another spring and then another different style pulley here. This style fits the 135, the 140, the 435, 2, and E. So there's 3 different 435s this will fit on. The 435, the 435E, 435-2. But not the 435E2. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's a misprint on Husky's webpage. I couldn't tell you. And then also the 442 uses this starter. Now the other style with the spring, the grouping for that would be the 135E, the 140E, the 435, and E. So you see there's an overlap right there because the 435 and 435E series will also use that other style. And the 440E would use that other style. So it's kind of important to know what models your part number fits if you're going to offer them for sale. Nothing wrong with this air conductor. That'll get sold with the starter. I already said that I don't like this coil. So let's just get it out of here. All these screws, I save them. Some for my projects. Sometimes I bundle up a pound at a time of the same style screws and sell them that way. They don't get a lot of money, but someone can use them, right? Yeah, we're gonna have to find our garbage can later. It's buried over there. The flywheel can come off. We're going to loosen the nut. You know what? We're going to take that washer off if we can. No, we can't. It's part of the nut. That's almost too big, ain't it? No, maybe not. Oh yeah. All right, I'm going to keep this nut here on the bench as a tool for knocking these off. And then, where's my original nut? Right there. Flywheel works on the 130, the 135, 135E, 135-2. The 140, the 140E, the 435E, 440E, CS2440, McCulloch CS350, 390, 410. Used in a lot of models. Air filter. I can clean this one because it's mesh. Air filters, pretty much the whole run, just like I labeled for the flywheel. Very common part between those models. You'll notice I'm putting the parts groups in these bins. If you didn't see the first video, the reason I put them in the bins is when I get ready to wash them, it makes it easier. We're going to remove the carburetor next. All right, this piece right here, that piece right there, if I get the screwdriver right underneath here, I can kind of just pop that right up. And once it's popped up, if I pull the throttle linkage in, then this whole mess will kind of lift up and clear right here. And you notice that this fell back in the rubber bushing. There should be another screw that I'm missing. Yeah, there's some more screws. There's one here. We got that loose. There's one here on this side. We can pop this one out. We kind of got this one started. It's not out. Maybe a magnet? Maybe not. What a pain in the butt. See, this thing fell back into that bushing. Gotta keep popping it out of there. So sometimes just spinning it'll help it back out. There. 3 screws. Air filter base. And wiring harness for the kill switch. Come on. Don't be shy. Get the blue wire through here. Boy, they make that just big enough, don't they? Only one at a time through the hole. There we go. Air filter base. I didn't check the part numbers on this, but I have to believe it's pretty similar across the board. We're not going to reuse this carburetor. It may be good for parts, but I don't know. I mean, sure, I could sell it as is, parts only. Why not? You know what's probably going to sell is that this piece right here. Someone's going to need that. And these things wear out. But I'm going to bundle this together, so I got to buy the whole thing at once. I mean, trying to sell that one little piece of plastic for more than 50 cents is going to be a tough sale, so that's why I bundle things together. Clutch cover. The clutch cover is unique to so there's 2 different clutch covers. One of them's listed as orange. I thought they were all orange, but maybe not. There's 2 different part numbers for sure. The 135E, the 140E, all the 435s and all the 440s, toolless, okay? And that's the kind that's got the spinny wheel here for adjusting the tension rather than the screw tensioner. The screw tensioner one like this, 435, 435-2, 435E2. Just the 435s it's got it listed as. 440s might have used the silver cover. That thing is dirty. Clutch. Clutch is pretty much universal to all the models I mentioned. Maybe even some that I didn't mention. 3/4 inch socket. Righty-tighty is the way we're spinning it. So we want to spin it this way. I tried showing this on the last video where I would just hit this and it wouldn't break it loose. But then I put my thumb over the spark plug hole to let compression slow that piston down. And it popped it right off of there. So our clutch feels really good. There's no play here. You know, it feels really nice. I've seen worse drums, worse sprockets for a used part. We could throw it in with the clutch. Our bearing is intact. Somewhere under here is a screw for our chain guide plate. Here's our oil worm gear. One screw. Kind of shape is this guide plate, and a lot of times they're cut up. Chain was scratching here at one point, but it's a solid piece. Yeah, we're in good shape here. So that, and we'll bundle the chain catch with that. That looks good. Doesn't look like a chain ever caught that. Our worm gear and our oil pump can be sold as one. You want to look here at the oil pump and see if there's any curved wear on this cylinder here. It looks nice and straight. Those pieces fit between most models. Most of the models I listed, I should say. The chain brake handle is unique to all the Husky models we talked about. I think it's because it's gray in color. Now, if you're wondering, you know, what do I have? A 435, a 435-2, an E2? I wouldn't look at the starter to get the answer to that. Now, I already told you that this starter will work on a few different models. So if it says E-Series right here, or 435-2 or whatever, it might interchange on this saw, and someone may have switched it somewhere in the past. And you can tell this ain't no spring chicken. In fact, the way I make sure that I'm working with the right model is to look at the ID plate, and it'll say right on here, this just says 435. It also has a product number, and if you have access to the dealer portal or someone that's a dealer or certain parts lookup sites, you can use that product number to get to the exact saw that you're working with. And I can see from this tag also that this is a 2013 model. All right, we have we got two screws off, yeah. So here's our handle. It's in good shape. What I always look for on these handles is right here. Because if someone puts the clutch cover on and they don't get it on there right, or they got the brake on and they're trying to force it over the drum and it's not on there tight and they're yanking on the handle, these three pieces interchange, they go right in there, right? If that piece goes right in there, and that's what moves the brake, if it skips over the top of it enough times, it's going to round this corner off right here. That corner right there will get rounded over. And if it's rounded over, I pretty much consider it junk, because if you can't reset the brake because that's rounded over, what good is that? And it's just a safety item right here, so we don't mess around with brake handles. And when I say we, I mean me, but me also represents the dealer I work for. So our dealership doesn't mess around with safety issues, and I won't try and sell something unsafe in my own eBay store. All right, let's keep going. We got a handle. So So far it looks pretty good. No screw there. The screw's right here. Hard to see, but it's buried in all that schmutz. So it comes off the case here and then has to slide that way. And this handle's in good shape. These get smashed all the time. Someone will be looking for one of those. That handle fits all the Husky models we talked about. That would be 135, 140, 435, and 440. This pin right here is a locating pin for the oil pump. There's a groove right here. Right there's your groove. And when you put this together, that's how that pin sits in there, right? Well, sometimes someone will work on these things or whatever, and when I get them, they'll look like this with no pin. Well, where'd the pin go? Well, a lot of times it's a mystery where the pin went. My point is, if you're working on one of these, look for the pin, because if it's not there, then that pump can't move back and forth and pump oil, because that groove, I said it was a groove, but if you look at it really close, see if we can do this. It's moving left and right. It's not a straight cut groove, it's got a wobble in it. And what happens is that pin makes this thing go like this while it's wobbling. And when it's going like that, in and out, what do you think it's doing? It's pumping oil. That's how those oil pumps work. A couple parts here that are ready to go flying because there's a spring there. We'll sell that with the brake handle. Got a muffler on front, probably 5mm. Oh, look at that. Someone's been living in there. Anybody home? Good times. I don't even know if you can see that. The mufflers are universal across the board on all the models we talked about. I didn't think that was always the case. I thought some of these had a cat muffler. This is not. This is completely hollow. It just goes to show you I don't know everything. And that's why it's important to look up the part numbers. Alright, our fuel tank is unhooked right here where the chain catch was. This is where the handle went. That screw's already missing. And that's the third point where the handle would have connected it. So this should kind of come apart. There's a locating pin here. And there's a locating pin here. Let's see if we can get that out of there. I backed it out. I guess I got to take it all the way. There's a bushing in there. That pin is, you'll see the bushing in a minute. Right here. So this pin goes in here like that. That's what holds that, locates that. And now we can push our fuel lines down through, pull them through, whatever it takes. This particular tank was completely empty when I got it. Does that mean that it's junk? It's got a hole in it? Or does that mean someone emptied it? This is loose too. So if that's stripped, then I'm going to abandon the tank. If it's not stripped, then I'll wash the tank. Yeah, it's tight. I'll wash the tank and I'll pressure test it. But we're not going to do that on video here today. It'll be sold as one assembly like this. In fact, this piece, that'll go back with the crankcase. That fuel tank, 435, the 435E, the 440, and the 440E are the only ones listed for that tank. All right, let's pop this cylinder out of here. Chassis, crankcase, whatever you want to call it. This crankcase does not look like, sometimes you'll have a muffler come loose and you'll see some burning in here, melting. I don't see anything like that around here. It's probably in good shape. Yeah, we're going to clean this up and sell it. I don't know how many people are looking for a crankcase that fits a, 135, 135E, 140, 140E, 435, 435E, and 440E. Now there's also a crankcase assembly in gray. At least part of it's gray, maybe just this part. I don't remember. It's got a whole different set of models that it fits. For example, the 435-2 and the 435E2 would use the gray crankcase. Thought I saw something in there, but it's fine. We get a mess. All right, our intake boot is common to all the models we talked about. Let's take a look at this one and see what we got. After I wash this, I'll inspect it again. I don't know, I think it looks pretty good though. Does it? Yeah, looks pretty good. I want to get our crankshafts out of here. I want to keep it clean though. Crankshaft, wow. The crankshaft is common among all the models we talked about, including, where is it? Got to check my cheat sheets here. Crank, all. I want to say there's some McCulloch models, the CS350 and 390, that this might be the same as. Wow. A little bit of blow by there, huh? Old fuel blow by. Right here, So right in through here, look at these rings. They're kind of scratched up. Then you got these lines right here. And there's a little bit of that marking inside the cylinder. And that's why I won't sell the cylinder. But I will pull that piston off and try and sell that crankshaft. This anti-vibe mount, that's still good, and that will go with, I'll attach this to the handle. Let it go with that. Yeah, there's just a little bit of lines in there. All right, I'm going to get this cleaned up and reset, and then we'll go through the next step, which is going to be washing parts. All right, there's a fair chance that I didn't have this camera on for the first few minutes of this. But all I've done is I've added some parts to the mix. And depending on the kind of cleaner that you have, the chemical you're using, some of these aluminum parts, you don't want to leave them in too long. See how nice and shiny this is? If I leave it in there too long, it's going to come out dull gray. It's not really what we want. I got some clean brushes I can start with here. And I'm looking for this part. After I've gone through and cleaned every square inch. Now, it's not so much that it has to be super clean. I want all the major grease off of it for sure. But I'm not going to be so anal about this that, and here I am getting all picky. I just want it so it looks pretty darn good. Presentable in a picture. Chance to inspect it all. I want it so when they, if you're a shop and you ordered this part, you open it up and you can bolt the part on. You don't have to go through and clean it or wipe away grease to see if there's any cracks in it or whatever the case may be. I think that separates, there's two different kinds of eBay sellers. Some will just yank the part off. It'll look like that down there. And that's it. That's how they sell them. Maybe with free shipping. I take the time to wash the parts decent. And I get a lot of pictures of the parts. And I charge shipping. So my parts aren't always going to be the cheapest purchase. But they're going to be clean and inspected by someone who's familiar with what they should look like. If it sounds like a sales pitch, sure, it's a sales pitch if you want. Now, how much of this do you want to watch me wash? We looked at this intake boot earlier, and it was pretty dirty, and I couldn't tell if it had any cracks in it or not. You see, I said I wasn't going to get crazy, but I tried to get all the dirt off. And that boot looks pretty good. I don't see any weather checking, cracks, whatever you want to call it. It looks really good. Yeah. Little schmutz down in there. Something I threw in here has kind of got something floating in the water. Yeah, a lot of these parts, this one's got paint on it. It needs to be in there longer. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run the ultrasonic here And you don't want to hear that thing running. So let me just clean up a couple of these that really don't need the power of the ultrasonic. And then we'll come back. So this 435, there was a lot of models these parts would work on. I didn't check this chain guide plate, but I wouldn't be surprised if it fit all the models we had discussed. You know, there's something I didn't see right here. I don't even know what that line is from. I think possibly the chain brake handle rubbing on there. Otherwise, it looks like it's pretty good. Some of these parts I like to get out of here before they're in too long, like this one here. I can tell it's already getting a little bit dull, the finish is. And this water's hot enough that I don't even really need the ultrasonic action to clean it. Although if I was using the ultrasonic, I wouldn't be brushing it this much. It would be cleaning itself. Let me throw a few more parts in here and I'll run the thing and then we'll come back. Look at that thing. Yeah, this too. And we'll might as well throw the oil pump and the worm gear. All right, looks good. We're going to run this for about 15 minutes. All right, that 15-minute cycle ran. While it was running, I went through and I cleaned out these trays and got all the schmutz out of them. So when the clean parts go back in, they won't be all full of schmutz. You know, these parts that were drying will go back in those trays. Some of the parts that don't go through the ultrasonic are like the crank and the muffler and the carb. Those just get cleaned by hand. All right, let's see what we got in here after one 15-minute cycle. I want to start with this flywheel because I want to get this out of here. Look how dull gray it is. 15 minutes in this cleaner has really taken the sheen off of it. Kind of made it look old and yucky. Perfectly good part yet. This doesn't look as good as it did before. Yeah, I got all the dirt off the fins. Looks good. We'll let it dry. Remember what that cover looked like? You know, it's like a diamond in the rough. Some of these pieces, you see a chainsaw laying in a pile of junk. And you know, this one looked pretty bad. Oh, look at that cover. There's nothing wrong with that. That little bit of paint is actually coming right off of there. That's a good sign. Whatever that is can come off. I don't have to get this perfect. I'm selling it as a used cover. I want to get it so it looks decent. Here's our clutch. I will make sure that the clutch is completely dry and gets a light coat of oil, because I don't know how long it's going to sit in storage. You know, I might sell it tomorrow. I might sell it 2 years from now. I've had some stuff that I've held for 3 years. Well, just because I'm listing it doesn't mean it's sold. Okay, we've stripped our chainsaw and we have washed the parts, separated the parts into groups that we want to sell, and now it's time to prep them for taking pictures so we can list them. Now there's probably a lot of different ways to do this. This is the way I do it. I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. I'm saying this is the way I do it. So if you're one of those people that have been following my videos and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I'd like to be able to sell some parts on eBay, but I'm not sure what's all involved, this is one more of those steps that you want to take into consideration and eventually fine-tune it into your own system. Now, I might be putting more into this than I really have to, but I'm kind of an old school guy, and I still am going to use paper as a trail, and it helps me stay organized. All right, I had a camera fail. I'm not sure where I left off there, but I'm going to make a paper trail of all these parts. And when I do that, the first thing I do is write down the make and the model. And then on a Husqvarna, I've got the serial number tag here. I'm going to include the SKU number on here. And I'm going to include that number in the description of the saw, along with the model year. This is a 2013. And now, I should have said SKU number. I should have said product number, because we're going to talk about custom SKUs later, and I don't want to confuse the two. A custom SKU, when you're listing on eBay, is something that you can create on your own to help identify that part so you know where to find it. A lot of people sell on eBay and they got one or two things, and if they sell it, they know where to find it because it's one or two things, right? Later, I'll show you what I have for parts, and I have over 1,000 pieces available, and I can't just, hey, a guy needs a carburetor for a steel MS250. I know where that's laying, right? No, I don't. It's going to have a custom SKU so I know which box it's in, and then I also break it down into a custom number I give that part. All right, just to give you an idea of what 1,000 to 1,200 parts looks like for chainsaws and trimmers and blowers. I've got banker's boxes. They're all numbered, and this row goes all the way down here. Actually, there's a blank spot right here. There. Some boxes are fuller than others, and they'll get consolidated. So part of my custom SKU is going to look like this. I know all of these parts are going to go into this box right here, okay? And this box is number 23. So I'm going to mark this down, box 23. And then my numbering system is going to look something like this. 10F1. 10F17. I think there's 17 here, but it doesn't matter. We can break it down later. So this is what I do. When I'm listing it, in order to make listing go faster, I'm going to have 17 things I got to list. And if I'm doing them all individually, it's going to eat up a lot of time. I want to do this as fast as I can and as accurately as I can. So the first one that I do, 10F1, is going to have a lot of information in it that is going to be relevant for all the parts I list. For example, in the description, it'll have the Husqvarna product number and the year and the model of the saw. And then you have to also include shipping information so that eBay can accurately quote shipping costs to the buyer. That means that each one of these pieces, you're going to have to know what it's going to ship in, an envelope and what size, how much it's going to weigh, or a box and what size and how much it's going to weigh. You got to be pretty close on that, and especially if you're doing international sales through eBay, you know, they have to quote the costs of the shipping, and if you're not accurately representing that, there's going to be some problems there. So we've established that I've got 17 pieces that I'm going to ship. The first one, I always start with envelopes. In this case, 10 by 7 padded envelopes. Now, the parts that I've got laid out here, which ones are going to go into envelopes? So, I've got an oil cap. That'll go easily ship in an envelope. So what I do is, I turn on my scale, put my envelope on there, put my part on there, and I know it's going to be 1.1 ounces. So the way I lay this out is it's going to say oil cap, and then over here it's going to say 10 by 7, and I know that means it's going to be a 10 by 7 envelope. And then over here I'm going to write 2 ounces. It's okay to go over a little bit, but you can't go under. And I'm going to go through the whole lineup. Now I've got 4 different pieces that are going to go into envelopes. You know, I've got the oil pump. And that's going to be 2 ounces. And what this does is, while I'm listing this, there's a section where you have to put in the box size and the weight. Now if I start with this envelope box size and this weight, and my next listing is exactly the same, a 10 by 7 with 2 ounces, I can just skip right through that. If the next thing I listed was this crankcase and I have to put it in a 12 by 6 by 6 and it weighs a different weight, you know, whatever, that's a lot of jumping back and forth. So this is just a way to keep efficient. Also, the way I've laid this out is the way that I'm going to photograph it in that exact order. So when I'm looking at the files on my computer, the next one that pops up is actually the next one on the list. It's a very simple way to do it. I don't know if there's an easier way or not, but that's the way I do it. Now, if you're just doing it strictly from your phone, it might be a little different. I don't know. I don't use my phone for listing. I do it on a PC. And I found that this works pretty good. So I'm going to go through and weigh all of these. Just for example, you know, maybe I'm using this box size to ship this air filter. Now, it says 3.7 ounces, but I'm not going to ship that air filter loose in that box. I'm going to add some packing material, maybe throw in a sticker. So I have to add some weight to this 3.7. The way I do it, I round up to 4 ounces, and then depending on the box size, I have a predetermined ounce that I add to that total to compensate for shipping material. I might add 2 ounces for a box that size. I might add 8 ounces for a box this size, right? And it depends what I'm putting in there as well. After you do it for a while, you can guess pretty close. And when I'm shipping things out and I'm going back and marking on here that I've sold it and for how much, I can go back and look and say, oh, yeah, I was pretty close on that 2 ounce guess or whatever it might be. So let me get caught up here a little bit and then we'll take a look at snapping some pictures. So this is the way I do it. And I'm not saying this is the way you need to do it. I'm saying this is what works for me. So let's take a part like this clutch. I'm going to offer this as one piece, or for these 3 pieces for one price. And the camera that I use is my last cell phone. My wife has an eBay store and she uses her current cell phone and lists that way. I do it this way, and I don't think it matters. What does matter is that you get good clean pictures not blurry, and they accurately describe any faults with the product, because you don't want to be sending stuff that's actually broken and then have to do a refund or whatever. So eBay will let you put up to 24 pictures. Smile. I do the voice activated shutter so I don't, bump the camera when I'm taking a picture. You can do up to 24 pictures, and you're not going to need 24 pictures on every piece, or not even anything close to that. Some you will. Smile. That's a good clutch. Okay. On some parts, you may need to take a measurement so that you can say, well, for example, on this clutch, there might be a spec for how far before it's worn out. So I'm going to want to take a picture with the measurement. Smile. That way the buyer can see that it's not worn out. Now there might be other parts where you want to show other types of measurement. Here's a felling dog. And, well, I don't know how big that is. There's nothing to proportionalize the size. So we'll just take a tape measure and we'll lay it out and snap our picture with the tape measure in there. And then, you're more accurately describing the product. All right, I'll have to take more pictures of this. But basically, that's all there is to it. You want good lighting, a decent background. eBay has a filter you can use to help filter out backgrounds and bring these things almost to the surface like they're floating on a white background. I noticed that a lot of sellers, I don't want to say that. I want to say about half of the sellers will just throw this part on the workbench, snap a picture of it, and list it. Then there's others that will do it something like I'm doing, and then there's still others that will take a picture like this and have their logo, banner, card, watermark, something in that picture. And it's all good. Whatever works for you. The key is get good, clear, focused pictures. If there's a problem with the part, and I'll give you an example. We got this crankcase. If I wanted to take pictures of this crankcase, everything on here looks good. And I'm not selling this, by the way. I decided that's why it's not completely washed. During the washing process, I found something that I just didn't like. Because you're not going to get a lot of money for a plastic crankcase like this. So when you find a problem with it, it'll almost, I abandon it, whatever. I could point it out, but I don't want to sell it this way. There's a crack right there. See if we can get in on that a little bit better. Yeah, it's pretty dark here. But right there, there's a big crack. And this thing, I think, took a hit because this is all deformed. It took a big hit. And I'm just not going to sell it. I mean, I harvested the oil cap. I'll sell that. These clips are in rough shape. So that was another part of my decision process not to sell it. I know that selling a crankcase for $435 isn't a high demand item, so that's just going to go. That's going to go away. So that's all I'm going to have for you on the $435 strip and flip. We covered stripping the saw, washing the parts, categorizing the parts, and taking pictures of it. Things left to cover would be storage of the parts and listing the parts, shipping parts, There's a lot involved. I don't know how much more of that we're going to get into, but it's all things you got to consider if you want to strip and flip on eBay. Thanks for watching. Later.